There is power in personal stories. It connects us, it empowers us, and it holds us accountable. It creates understanding and expands our perspective. This is Big in the Community with Jonathan James at the Kalamazoo Promise, a podcast aimed to highlight local leaders, collaborators, and innovators in the greater Kalamazoo community. All right, welcome back to another episode of Big in the Community. We're going to kick it off with a quote. The bank keeps calling me and giving me compliments. They say I have an outstanding balance. That's our first joke quote to start off a podcast. Inspired by a wonderful guest here who happens to be employed by a bank.
This is true.
Yeah. Yep. So we would like to welcome Josh Wujkowski, commercial banker, officer of Mercantile Bank.
Absolutely. Yeah, excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for being here. Let's get right into it.
Sure.
So how long have you been with Mercantile Bank, and what led you to your current role?
For sure. I've been with Mercantile just over 2.5 years now. What led me there is kind of interesting. I went to college at Western, so go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
But while I was at Western, I went to school and I worked at the same time. And I was at a financial institution previously, more on the retail side of banking, so cash and checks, talking to customers. We say retail is like the face of a bank. And while I was there, I just really found that I was like motivated or started to develop this mission that I really enjoyed, helping like individuals and businesses kind of meet their financial goals, their dreams, however that may look. Obviously, as a bank, we're just one part of that. But I started to discover that in college, working at the bank, and then I was going to school for finance. So started to see those might marry into a career one day. The logistics of how I ended up at Mercantile are much more like lame, to be honest with you, because I was in college 3 years at Western and 2 of them were COVID. Oh. And so I remember having a class where part of my credit or like being able to pass was going to job fairs. Like I just had to go to them and like fill out this little report and say I went. And so I remember waking up at like 8 for a job fair that started at like 8:05. And I wearing sweatpants and like a button up, and I jump into this job fair call and it's me and 3 people from Mercantile Bank and nobody else.
Oh. And
I was like, immediately though, they started to talk and I started to get kind of just hooked by like the mission and why they existed and what they were saying. And then started to get nervous. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm sitting here unprepared, like not ready to like, and I'm actually intrigued by what they're saying. And from there, the rest is kind of history. I started at Mercantile. I worked in the underwriting, the credit side of the bank. So more underwriting deals when we bring in clients and then kind of managing the portfolio from the risk kind of management side. And from there moved into more of the now in relationship management, working with business owners kind of as that direct point of contact. So okay. I think I hit your question there.
Yeah, no, you did. You got it. You got all of it. You said you went to Western.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit more about your academic journey and how that went?
Yeah.
Yep. Go back as far as you want.
Yeah, I'll go as back as far as I can remember because my memory is horrible. But I'm kind of born and raised greater Kalamazoo County area. So grew up in mainly Schoolcraft. Before that, I lived like out in Delton, which is like way out there a little bit. But grew up in Schoolcraft, went to Kalamazoo Christian for a couple years of like elementary school, moved to Schoolcraft in about 4th grade and went there all the way through graduation. Interestingly, and a great thing about a lot of schools in Kalamazoo, I dual enrolled at Schoolcraft in KVCC. So I got a lot of college done in high school, which is great. Go Cougars, by the way. KVCC is awesome. But so got about a year of college done at KVCC, and then immediately went to Western after that for, like I said, a couple years. And 2 of them were COVID. So it was a really interesting college experience where I was really only in college for like 1 year. The rest of it was like college was my like parents' basement, which was pretty cool. And then from Western directly into Mercantile. So that's kind of the story arc of my educational career, I guess. Yeah.
Now, did you always know you wanted to do accounting or financing, or like what was your original major when you went to Valley?
Yep. So at Valley, I was just kind of trying to accumulate credits. I think I was in business, but it was more just getting prereqs out of the way. When you do that dual enroll program, it's really, if you do it the absolute best, you can get an associate's degree before you go off to like graduation from high school and all that. I didn't do it perfectly. So I had probably a year's worth of credits that were just kind of general, your maths, your English, things like that. I always kind of knew I wanted to go the business route. So when I started at Western, I was just in business. You kind of just choose that. And then I started to choose finance as I started to figure out like, hey, I'm really motivated at work when I'm kind of helping people to achieve financial goals. And so finance was kind of the route to go, with knowing that I would either go into banking or something similar where it felt like I was helping individuals and businesses that are within the community to kind of achieve what they're looking to achieve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. As a Kalamazoo resident, how's living in this community influenced your work and also your perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because like I said, kind of born and raised Kalamazoo area for my whole life. My dad actually did over 20 years as a part of KDPS, so Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. So I've always been and really cared about the greater Kalamazoo community and kind of seeing it prosper and thrive. And a lot of that, I think, does go back to my dad being so involved here in the downtown area and just wanting to help the community in any way I can through my work. And working at Mercantile, where we're a community bank, right? And one of our kind of the undercurrents of who we are and what we do is wanting to help the businesses and individuals within our community to achieve their financial goals. I feel like that really marries my desire of, I really love this area. I grew up here. I want to see Kalamazoo thrive. And a big part of that is businesses and individuals, right? Being able to do whatever they're trying to do. And being at an institution whose mission is kind of aligned in the same way. I feel like it's even something I don't even really think about it. It's just so well, the two kind of met, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it's awesome that you were able to see that on a random Zoom call.
Right. Yeah.
That you just made it in to do. Can you tell us more about Mercantile Bank and also like the role it plays in supporting local businesses or local organizations or just the community at large?
For sure. Yeah. I'll try not to ramble too much with my answer because I feel like that's a big question. But Mercantile, we were actually started in 1997, so we're not that old of a bank, by a group of individuals who really I don't know how you start a bank, but they decided to. It was like 20 people. They decided to go out and start a bank because they wanted to kind of form an institution that was ingrained in its community with kind of the mission of helping the community prosper, hence community bank, right? And so now we're the largest bank headquartered in Michigan. We're not the biggest bank in Michigan, but we're headquartered here.
Okay.
We're just in Michigan. That's kind of who we are. Our headquarters is in Grand Rapids, and then we have kind of offices all throughout the state. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, the second part of your question was kind of how do you support like local businesses, organizations, and the community at large? For sure. Yeah. And I think that there's kind of a two-pronged approach there at Mercantile because a big part of it is just them empowering their employees to get involved, right, in their community. So I was reading yesterday through like one of our fact sheets. Hopefully there's no fact checkers on the podcast to find out if I'm wrong here. But I think we, over the last 12 months, have over 20,000 hours volunteered at over 900 organizations in Michigan. So I think a big part of it's not even on the corporation itself, but on individuals within the corporation to be empowered to give back and to be involved in their community. Whether that be, I know we partner with like Junior Achievement to teach financial education classes and financial wellness classes, or just any nonprofit where people want to get involved. We're really empowered to do that, which I think is great. From the bank side of things, how community banks, and really I can only speak for Mercantile, but how we give back or help the communities. I think one part that's really huge is that people who kind of deposit their money with us or businesses who deposit their money with us, they know that all those funds are getting used within Michigan or within the community that they reside, if that makes sense. So if you deposit money with us, it's not getting shot out to, California to build something there, but it's getting reinvested into Kalamazoo or into Grand Rapids or wherever you're at, which I think is huge. And a huge role that a bank should play, right? To bring money in from the community, but then reinvest it within same community. I think also what's big is just we're really big on safety and soundness, so that when you bring your money to us, it's being well managed, right? And it's safe, and it's being put in places that it can kind of make a difference, but also you don't have to worry about like, where is my money, right? Which is a big one. In other areas where we're kind of unique that I found as I started at Mercantile is we just kind of recognize what we may see as an issue or a problem and then immediately try to solve it, which I thought was interesting. So example, you and I have talked about, I think historically, just the need for housing just in general in Michigan, but also in Kalamazoo, that need for housing and also like affordable housing, right? And we saw that as a need too. And we, in recognizing that need, started a wholly owned subsidiary of the bank called Mercantile Community Partners, and its sole focus is to support affordable housing developments in Michigan. And it gets really complicated beyond my kind of ability to explain, but when you have, things like historic redevelopments and tax credit financing and all these really complicated tax and capital stacks coming together, it gets really hard to get those projects over the finish line. And so we created this entity to come in and say, hey, we're going to help on both a debt and an equity side to help these projects get over the finish line so that housing gets built in our communities, or buildings that were previously maybe not housing, right? It could have been office space or a historic building can get rehabbed into housing. So just kind of, recognizing a need in the community, but beyond, I'm a big, I may see a need and I may complain about something. But Mercantile comes in and they're like, hey, how can we actually do something here? Another interesting example is payroll. At Mercantile, we saw that our payroll, we were historically with, I think, a bigger provider. In the personal level of service and just how it was going, it was just kind of a bumpy road for us. And so instead of just complaining about it, maybe switching services, we really kind of got introspective and we were like, maybe this is a service we could administer to the bank, and maybe this is something that our clients could benefit from as well. So we just started kind of offering payroll as a service, and now that's something that we do for a lot of our clients. But again, it started with, we saw it as an issue. We talked to our clients and they were having kind of the same struggles. And we thought, what if we were able to offer it to you guys to kind of ease some of that burden? So yeah, I hope I'm answering that question.
No, you are. No, it is definitely. I mean, that's kind of like the core of nonprofits is you see a need and then you address it.
Right.
And it sounds like Mercantile Bank is, it's not a nonprofit,
right?
But
Sure.
it still has those kind of those guiding mission values of we see a problem, we're going to address it.
Right.
Even if it's within organizations or if it's within your own organization, and then saying hey, let's share that with other people too. That's huge.
Right. Yeah.
So you answered the whole section of questions I had.
Sure.
So,
yeah. I think, sorry to jump in,
no, you're
but
good.
I think you brought up about having, whether you're a for-profit institution, a nonprofit institution, having that mission or that vision at the core of what you do. So when our founders started the bank, we want to be a community bank that reinvests in our community, that helps it to prosper and thrive. I think keeping that vision, that mission at the forefront is super important, right? You can't lose sight of that because that should drive all the decisions that you're making. And I think that's kind of what you see. We are a for-profit institution, but at our core, at our mission and vision, we're not compromising on that. We had a big company meeting recently within our department, and kind of just describing what some of our foundational pillars of who we are, what they are. And the first one was the customer is the point. And so for us, that is the core of what we do. Every decision we make, everything we do, it revolves around there is a customer here. Whether you're back office or you're talking to the customer, there's a customer here and they're the point of what we do and helping them succeed, the businesses, the individuals, the community they reside in. That's the kind of core of who we are that I don't think we compromise on. And that's, same thing with the Kalamazoo Promise. So you guys have a core, a mission, a vision that is uncompromising, that drives everything you do. And I think just not losing sight of that, whether you're for-profit, nonprofit, is kind of so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you summed it all up. We could stop the podcast right there. No, but back to your like personal journey. So was there anything specific that motivated you in your career, especially like working with business or individuals? You mentioned a little bit about financial goals. So what motivated you to get where you are now?
No, that's a good question. I think, I'm not someone who's motivated by, I call it the thrill of the deal, right? Like I got this big deal done and all the, the numbers are floating around and there's lots of Excel files and it's cool. I'm really more motivated by, when I walk out of a meeting with a company that may be a client of ours or maybe not, we're just kind of in a trusted advisory role. But when I walk out of that meeting and I walk down the production floor and I'm heading to the exit and I see just employees on the right and the left doing their job, like working, it motivates me. It makes me feel good that whatever small part I have to play here is helping them, right, those people who live in our community, to have a job that, pays them well. They get to go home to their family and kind of have their own mission and vision in their life. But for me, the motivating factor of what I do, and it started all the way back when I kind of started in banking and was helping people cash their check or open a new account. The motivation is just that I get to play a small part in helping someone achieve whatever their goal is. And I have nothing to do really with your goal, right? You have your own goals, mission, vision in your life. But in kind of the banking role, I get to help a business employ all these people and the business owners themselves, kind of carry out their own goals in life, achieve what they're trying to achieve, have a family, Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So for you, how do you incorporate your own personal values? And then just like relationship building, how do you incorporate those things into your role?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because we kind of touched on it, how I felt like, when I sat down in my first meeting with the people at Mercantile, that there was just kind of that aligned vision, which is what you want in any career, right? But the things that are important to me in my own life, I feel like are also similarly important to Mercantile, and it kind of coalesces into a place where it's almost not even something I'm thinking about. I'm just doing it, right? So when I walk out of a meeting, I don't want a customer to think about like, oh, he got me the lowest rate or the lowest fee or whatever it may be. But I'd rather have them say, hey, like he really offered some value here. Like he really helped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, a big value is just like being helpful to people. It's kind of what I learned from my dad, is like, he just loves helping people. And I feel like I kind of inherited that from him a little bit. But when he would describe what he did, it wasn't writing traffic tickets, or for a long time, KDPS, they do fire as well. It wasn't extinguishing a burning building, but it was like, no, I helped the people who needed help. Yeah. Right. And I feel like it's the same for me. It's like a big value for me is like helping people who need something. Right. And I'm not going to be able to solve somebody's situation or issue, but I may be able to play a small part in it. And I try to take that to work every day of like, even if I'm working with somebody in the back office, how can I, like, what do you need? How can I help you get done what you're trying to get done? Or if it's a business, like, what do you need? Can I be a help of that? Or can I just bring somebody in who's way smarter than me who can help you with that?
No, like you say, it's a little part, but money is a huge thing.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
It changes lives. But you definitely have the humility to say, like, how can I help you? Who else do I need to bring into this conversation?
Right. Like, I don't know how to build cars. So I'm not going to tell a business owner who like builds car parts how to do that.
Right.
Like, that's just, I'm not going to overstep my bounds. But what I do know is how can I, as a bank, structure, whether it be your loan relationship, your deposit relationship, how can I bring in things like payroll or things like the Mercantile community partners who can help in your situation? Or we even as Mercantile see ourselves as kind of that trusted advisor. Who should you be talking to that I can, bring into this conversation, whether it be, a CPA, an attorney, you need help with expense management. I don't really know how to expense manage, but I can bring in somebody who has that expertise. And again, it's that trusted advisory role where we are one small part of a business owner's overall team. But we kind of try to enable that to work, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Thank you for the work you're doing. It's a lot. I mean, I don't want to downplay it or anything. Like you're doing good work. You're changing people's lives, but also like kind of being the glue that keeps our communities moving or together, not moving.
Right.
Glue, tying stuff up. But anyway, all right. So I got some questions about Kalamazoo.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
This is the big one.
Yeah. Right.
If you could change one thing about the greater Kalamazoo community, because you said greater,
right,
what would it be?
That's a huge question. And I think I'll go back to something. I feel like we've talked about it even in the past. I feel like in Kalamazoo, there's so much opportunity here. I feel like we're on a great trajectory as a greater Kalamazoo region. But I feel like sometimes, I don't know if collaboration is the right word, but making businesses, people aware of the great opportunity and resources that are available in Kalamazoo, I think is one area we can continue to improve. Not that isn't happening, but I think as we went through the Leadership Greater Kalamazoo program together, you start to realize in a program like that how many great resources, whether it be nonprofits, whether it be government institutions, whether it be businesses, people providing a host of different services, opportunities, ways to help others in the community. I think making that or communicating that to the people who need them would be great. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know if I'm making sense on that front.
No, it does. I mean, you're not necessarily saying this is what we need. It's more of we have all this,
right?
But not everybody knows about it,
right? And education's like the hardest thing, right? Like there are so many resources in Kalamazoo. How do we communicate that to the people who need them? I don't know if there's an easy answer, but that's one thing. And I know we've talked about it, is like, how do we, as people who kind of have had an inside view into so many of the different great organizations and resources, how do we play our part in the community of bringing people to that table? Yeah.
And it's tough because, I mean, even like Leadership Kalamazoo was awesome. And I'll ask you a couple questions about that later. But it's what information from that how do we relay those things to the people who should hear it? And then, but also not overstepping and saying like, you need this, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But there's so many things in Kalamazoo that help people, like so many organizations, so many philanthropic funders, there's so many things like that, but the access to it is, and I don't want to say it will continue, but it's an issue that we haven't necessarily solved yet.
Right. And I think every community probably sees the same thing, right? It's how do we communicate this to people? And you made a great point too, is it's like kind of similar to, I can't go into a manufacturer and tell them how to make new things. Like we can't tell people you have to do this, right? But how do we shout it from the rooftops that, hey, here are the things that are available to you,
Yeah. And even finding out what is it that your community needs or that you feel they need. Right. And then is there something that exists like that already, or is there not? And do we make something new? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. That's kind of similar to my day to day. I'm not at the bank, I'm not a one size fits all, like you are a manufacturing company of this size and this is exactly the structure I'm going to put you in with this set of requirements and these products and services. It's how do we tailor this to work for you? And it's the same thing within Kalamazoo. Is the service, is the resource there? If it's not, how do we find it or find something that does work? But yeah, you can't just one size fits all everything, right? So it's not by no means an easy thing to do, but
that even goes back to like the promise. So like we have a one size fits all gift, right?
Right.
That everybody in Kalamazoo can use to go to school. But then it was started, then our team's grown to 30 people, right? Around there. and there's workforce, there's people trying to figure out what is it that's stopping you from using your scholarship. And then there's other people who are just focused on like, what support do you need? Right. Let's do this together. Like, let's have a cohort of students that we're going to get you the credential, the trade, the associates, the bachelor's, whatever it is, or even get you past that. And then having this as a starting point. So there's so much stuff that goes into this.
100%. Yeah.
We could talk about this for a while, but I guess, what do you see? I think I'm going to make this more personal, but also kind of around your current job.
Sure.
But what do you see the future of community banking in Kalamazoo heading?
Yeah.
And also, where do you want to be in that?
Yeah. Wow. Really good question.
That was a big one, right?
Question.
Oh, you're big over here.
Yeah. And I'm like, I think we did the Strengths Finder test in leadership, Greater Kalamazoo. I think my 34th strength was futuristic. One. Yeah. Right. So I'm like horrible at thinking about the future. But when it comes to, I'll answer the community banking part. And then if I forget to answer the me part, let me know at the end and I will. But for community banking, I really see community banks as a whole, but I can really only speak for Mercantile, a lot of growth, opportunity. I think within the banking industry as a whole, we saw some uncertainty throughout 2023 and into 2024, where we had a bank fail where it maybe wasn't being the best steward or manager of its clients' funds. And so I see, community banks where there's a focus on, hey, the funds that get brought to us are getting reinvested in our community, right? And they're staying here. Hey, the money you bring to us, we're going to steward it well. Safety and soundness is super important to us because you are super important to us, right? And then just that ability to offer kind of unique financial solutions, whether it be, we have payroll or merchant processing or an entity we created to help with affordable housing. Not being that one size fits all, but that, hey, let's sit down around the table and kind of create a solution that works for the businesses and individuals in our community. And then I just think about us. I mean, everybody who works in our Kalamazoo office is here in the office. We work and live in Kalamazoo. So we understand what is going on and what is needed, right? Because we're here. Right. I mean, I walked like 3 minutes to get right here to this office.
I know, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're here in Kalamazoo, so we kind of understand the community and what the community needs. So I think, those 4 or 5 factors are things that have started to be maybe more recognized or more at the forefront when people think about banking, especially businesses who, those things will be kind of at the top of their checklist. For me, myself, I mean, I just think I want to keep doing what I've been doing since I started in banking 5-6 years ago, which is just taking it day by day. Of course, not futuristic at all, right? Take it day by day. But to take it day by day to help the individuals, the businesses, whoever I encounter, achieve what they're looking to achieve. And I don't know what that may look like for me, like on a grand scale. But I'm kind of convinced in life that it's not, you don't have to do some big sweeping, gigantic thing to make a big difference in a community, but rather it's kind of how you approach every single day, every single interaction. There's this quote by Aristotle that's like one of my favorites. He says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit." It's not about doing one gigantic thing, but it's about, do I approach every single day with that mission and that vision still kind of at the core of all the decisions I'm making? In long term, I think that can turn into, big and great things. But I don't have at the forefront of my mind a giant, I'm going to change the world. But more at the forefront of my mind is like, how do I today help people achieve their financial goals? What does that look like for me? It may look like cleaning out my email inbox, or it may look like, going out and having a meeting with a business owner who needs help with, a financing situation, needs to build a new building. But for me, it's going to be day by day. How do I build this habit of, continually doing things that are around my mission vision? So, yeah. No,
that's awesome. I mean, I think your quote kind of sums it up. Like even though you're thinking of it as a short term, it's going to lead to long-term success. So That's a good quote.
Thank you.
I'm glad we still had a real quote within the podcast.
No, I love the banking joke at the beginning. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite things about Kalamazoo?
Yeah. I just love this city. It's where I grew up. It's all I know, but I'm not a big, I'm chasing greener grass kind of person. I just feel so entrenched in Kalamazoo, in being here. I think, there's so many great things about this city, whether it be, I think we have great food, first of all, which is awesome. Big food guy right here. But, and I think we just have a beautiful community. I mean, there's parks, there's so many things to do, and you're close to, like, if you want to get to the lakeshore in an hour, you can. If you want to get,
there's a bunch of lake shores. Like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. If you want to get to like a local, nature preserve in 20 minutes, you can. And Kalamazoo is a great hub to like live in order to do that. But yeah, I just think there's so many great things about Kalamazoo, and when you feel so entrenched in something, it's hard to start picking out like a top 5 list, because it's like, this is just my home. Yeah. You know what I mean? So my favorite thing about Kalamazoo is probably that it's my home.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. It's my home. Sums it up. Okay. What's your favorite pizza place?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. Downtown, Martini's pizza. That's just my absolute favorite. We go there. My family goes there once a year on Christmas or around Christmas. I think we're going this Friday. We'll go see. So one of my favorite things at Christmas, Bronson Park. They have like the lights up. It's awesome. So
they started putting them up already.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? So either this weekend, maybe next weekend, because I think they finalize them after Thanksgiving. We'll go out to Bronson Park and kind of walk through and see the lights, walk around downtown a little bit, and then we'll go to Martini's and have pizza. And I think we need to get it more, because we only get it like once a year. But yeah, I just think it's the best pizza in Kalamazoo. So, yeah.
Okay.
Shameless plug for Martini's.
Yeah. I figure you can name drop one.
Yeah.
One place. It's okay. As long as we don't say anything bad about them.
Right.
We're not going to do that. Do you have any memorable stories or experiences from your work, from school, that highlight the positive impact that, I guess, Mercantile is trying to do?
Sure. That's a good question. I think, a couple memories start to pop in, but they all have a similar theme, and it's that, just leaving a couple meetings where we kind of closed on a loan relationship, right? We maybe are helping a company to finance a new like big building expansion project, which is huge for a company, right? To be able to do this expansion. But as we're leaving, and if they talk to us about others in the community, or they like write a referral, which is super nice, it always strikes me that the things that they mention, that they write about, are not the dollar amount on the loan we got them. It's not, oh, they got me the lowest interest rate or the lowest fee. The things that they talk about are how we treated them, or how we kind of enabled them to do what they were looking to do, right? How we kind of were able to be nimble and find a structure that worked for them. That when we sat down around the table, it wasn't, here's the breakdown of what your loan is, but it was, hey, what do you need? And how can we kind of make that work for you guys? What are you actually trying to do? And what part can we play in that? And those are the things they talk about, which makes me feel good, right? Because if we want to get you the best structured loan, the best interest rate we can, like all those things are really important. But at the core is that there's a business who's trying to build a new facility, right? So that they can hire more people and add another shift maybe, and employ members of our community. And so what they talk about is how we enabled them to do that thing, which always just really strikes me, I think. Yeah.
Set mission and vision focus.
Sure.
I mean, but also the customer service piece, like, I don't know, like as simple as it is, there's like fast food places that I'll prefer to go to just because they happen to be nice to me when I go there, rather than, what you want. How much this like 1167,
Right. I think every business though that I talk to, or every business that you work for, right? I think they say what sets us apart is our customer service, right? And I just think, and I'm obviously biased, but I think when Mercantile says that and brings that to the table, I think it's actually true, right? And I think it's similar, like for the Kalamazoo Promise, right? That obviously your customers aren't like businesses who are trying to build buildings, right?
But they still have like things that they want to achieve,
right? And what you bring to the table is that, like, I mean, you can walk 3 minutes down the street and talk to somebody from the Promise right now about what you need. So I think, again, for you guys, it's the same, where that serving of the people who are using your service is what sets you apart. And even though everybody says it, it's true about you guys, right? So we're biased, so we're going to say that, but yeah.
No, it makes a difference. Like, I was joking about the fast food stuff.
No, but you're right.
You know, like if I'm a student and I'm being vulnerable, saying, "Hey, I need some help using the Promise, staying in school," you know, or if I come in and like my grades are bad and I'm about to lose it, or not lose it, but be on academic probation at the institution I'm at, I'm really vulnerable in that moment,
right?
And if I come to the door and like somebody's just like, "Can I help you?" You know, the attitude like, "Yeah, can't you please?" Like,
right? Yeah,
I need some help. But that makes a difference. And then even in the stories afterwards, like, you know, I came in and these guys were able to help me, and even to expose me to like, oh, I found what career I want to go into, or what I'm passionate about learning about. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's not that I'm changing the world in an instant, but it's doing those little things consistently that in totality may change the world, right? But what you're describing, I'm 100% behind it.
Cool. So you answered a lot of the questions I had. So I'm trying to think, okay, no, you already answered that. So
you can fire it off, and I can just ramble.
Okay, I got one for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't have the Promise, right?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So if you did have the Promise and all the supports that it offers,
right,
how might have that influenced your journey?
That's a great question. And I think for me in my college journey, I think I was just blessed in a number of ways. Like, I was super fortunate in a number of ways, to where I was able to be successful. I mean, my high school offered the ability to dual enroll, right? So I knocked out a year of college for free. Yeah. And then my dad, he had retired from KDPS and started working at Western. So I had a lot of opportunity there, and I had some scholarships that made college a real possibility for me, to be able to do that. And I think when I went to school, the biggest influencer of every decision I made was the cost. Am I going to be able to afford this and get at the end of it with a job, right? And so I think if I think about, like, if I had the Promise, if that was an opportunity for me, I think I could have been probably a little more ambitious, right? Instead of being probably more conservative, and like every decision is this working within the cost and getting me like where I want to be? But I think we want our college students to be able to be ambitious, right? To chase whatever their dreams may be. And I got lucky, right, to have a fortunate situation where I still got to end up where I wanted to be. But with something like the Promise, I could have been a lot more ambitious, maybe taken some of those classes that were a little bit outside of my career path, but were things that I was kind of intrigued by, or being able to pursue further education beyond, because I had kind of that ability to do the 4 years from the Promise. So I think, the ability, like the enablement of people to be ambitious in their career choices is probably a great intangible benefit of the Promise, right? Like, you can't really measure that, but enabling people to be able to chase whatever their dream may be. I don't know what the value on that is, but I think it's big.
Yeah. We do big stuff here.
Right. Yeah. Big in the community.
Yeah.
Right?
There it is. All right. If you had a golden nugget of wisdom that you would share with someone trying to build a career similar to yours, what would that be?
That's a great question. this is what I should have saved my Aristotle quote for, right? Which is, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. But I think for someone trying to pursue a career in banking, I'll circle back to kind of that idea that Mercantile has as one of their pillars, which is that the customer is the point. And I think if you're going into banking and that's a career you want to make, I think awesome. That's great. We love to hear that. Come intern with Mercantile or come work here. But I think never losing sight of the reason you're doing this is the customer, right? And you may end up in legal or loan documentation where you're kind of in the the back end of the bank, the back office. And your customer may technically be somebody who's more customer facing, but no matter what you do within the organization, it all traces back to a customer, which is a person, an individual, or a business that's trying to achieve some financial goal, and the bank is playing a small part in that. And so as they go through their career, I would just say, let that be the focus of the decisions you're making, right? The things you're doing all revolve around, you're going into a career where you're trying to help the customer and they're the point of it, right? And if you start to stray from that or get that confused and that's no longer the point of what you're doing, I think it can get kind of murky. And it would...
Murky.
Mercantile. Yeah, oh, geez. I didn't even notice that.
I did.
But the water can get clouded to where, well, then why are you doing what you're doing here? And then you have to refocus to, what I'm doing. It all surrounds the customer, the individual that I'm trying to help out here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's good. How can people get in touch with you and your organization?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the easiest way is always to give us a call or to stop into a branch, right? I think we have... Goodness, I hope there's no fact checkers. I think we have over 40 branches throughout Michigan. So stop into a branch, give your local banker a call. If you want to get a hold of me, you can look me up on LinkedIn. I have my work email and my phone number right there. If you see us at kind of community events where we try to be present, stop by and say hi. I know bankers can be a little boring. I'm pretty boring, but stop by and say hi. And then really for anybody, I think for myself and for Mercantile, we really mean it when we say we want to be a trusted advisor. We want to be kind of a net positive to the community, whether you're a customer of ours or not. And so I have even companies that aren't a customer. They're at a different bank, but occasionally they'll reach out to me and say, hey, I'm really working on getting some like insurance worked out with my employees. Do you know anybody in that space? Or, hey, I don't have a good relationship with a CPA. Do you know somebody that you trust? And I can kind of bring them to the table there. And they may not even be a client of mine. And to me, that doesn't really impact that discussion at all, because you're here in our community. If you succeed, we succeed. So reach out, have a conversation. Reach out to us. That's the best way I can put it. Yeah.
No, that's good. Do you have any questions for us?
Oh, goodness. That's a great question. I feel like I'm at like the end of an interview where I'm supposed to have a question, then I don't, right? Because
there's no compensation for this. I'm
no.
sorry.
Oh,
no.
Okay. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't think I have any specific questions for you guys. I mean, just going through Leadership Kalamazoo with you, I'm so impressed with what the Promise does here in Kalamazoo. And so if there's anything you're trying to highlight at the current moment, would love to hear about it. But
we're doing a lot.
Yeah, I know you guys do so many things.
No, shout outs to our team as far as the grant that got approved with Western and Valley to focus on our reconnection population. So our like specifically 25 until like they age out of the Promise. It's really focusing on them to, before they aren't eligible anymore, how do we get you back in school? Or get a trade, associates. What is it, what's going on with you right now at this time? Is there a way that we can help with that? So that's like one of the big things that has happened recently.
That's awesome.
I think that's anything else? No. The producer gave me a I don't know. No, but that's it. But no, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Banking isn't that boring.
No.
With you talking about it, it sounds kind of exciting. But yeah, just thank you for the connections you're making. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and the collaboration that you're doing in the community.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.